Uh, since 23rd December, I have realized that how empathy is contagious. Everyone who came in contact with Sir will catch Sir's care and altruism. I don't know what to say because I don't have capacity or capability, neither confidence to speak about his academics because I'm a student and I don't have that particular capacity. But I would like to speak about my interaction and his contribution to my life. And to when I have to speak about Sir, he reminds me every morning when I start my day with a lukewarm water. Recently, when I was talking to him, he burnt his hand and he was telling me how it has happened. So be careful. While delivering lecture, when I offload watch, wallet, keys, I'm reminded of Sir. When I see in my office chamber the lowest self has a shoe, polish, and a brush, I'm reminded of Sir. He would always say, Avanish, you are known as a composite identity. And then he'll correlate with Linton and systematic attempt to define status and role, and how he actually get into the abstraction from social reality or pattern of reciprocal behavior. I always used to ask two questions after meeting him or talking to him. How nicely he weaves between theory and day-to-day practices. And the second question, which I always used to ask, why he focuses so much on details. And frankly speaking, I now understand many things I noticed about him, not realized then, but adopted in due course that still continues with me. I think, Sir, you are like perfume. You applied, smelled, continued without making his presence. The only difference between you, Sir, and perfume is that you last forever. I hope your teachings and blessings and drive, which you have actually created for all of us to search for details of knowledge and practice, which a common person may forego, will like to continue. I would like to share some of my interaction with him. I heard about him in 1989 when I joined the department. My close interaction started with Sir in 1993 during my MSc days when we were also together in fieldwork in Dalhousie. When I was a young student, nobody was to recognize me. Nobody was there to acknowledge me. Neither I had any direction. It was Sir who inculcated a dream by building confidence and conviction that I can pursue and practice anthropology. As a student, I must say I was very possessive about him being my Sir. When I did my MSc dissertation with him, he asked me, what is your future plan? I said, I will do PhD under you. But then he said, I am not entitled to take you as a student. And then I asked him, then what can I do? Then I said, I'll do PhD, MPhil under you for 2 years, and then I'll join PhD under you. Today, if I must say to all of you, there are few things in my life which I seek pride of. I take one of them, that Sir was my supervisor in MSc, MPhil, and PhD. And I seek this pride forever, and I think I'll continue till I die. I believe in life when I used to share with Sir some moments. And then you say, don't call moment Avanish, these are right de passage. And then he linked with French folklorists who gave this concept on when, I don't remember the name, even the book, the first published in 1909, I still remember what it. And then he'll start correlating with Victor Turner, the introduction of social drama, and how Victor Turner, as a research associate working in the institute, did such kind of contribution. I have often noticed him linking day-to-day interaction with anthropological theory. The difference in Sir explanation was not social drama or Victor Turner. It was the purpose and precision with details that can inspire every student or anyone who has actually met him to bestow an example for others. Though there are many moments I have shared with him and I inspire, but I'll share few of them. I'll just like to take very few moments and then I'll just close myself. So when I was no one, there was someone to encourage. When I decided to marry, there was someone to first bless me. I still remember with 1100 rupees. When we were blessed with son, there was someone to name him. When I became professor, and in last meeting, we had a physical, when we were sitting together across the table for one of the university for faculty selection, he was the one to discuss, debate, and even disagree. Sir, you have remained in all important moment of my life. I really feel shattered because I've been listening to all of you since last so many days. to recall the last moment of my interaction with you when you were wrapped in white cotton, I'm not able to speak, and lying peacefully on your last journey. The last message I imbibe from your silence, whether it is the National Heart Institute when we are standing outside or at Nigambad Ghat, what you used to say always to me, that what defines you is the most, that if I recall you, that your face and calmness and the body is always restless to find something to do. I think at last I wish to say sorry to you, sir. You know, at places I have disagreed with you, but you also know that you have remained and will forever remain my guru, a teacher beyond contradictions. It's you who taught me to stand with conviction, irrespective of all odds. It's you who taught me that principles are above people. It's you who used to say that, Avanish, people will die, body will die, principles germinate with every interaction. I have never ever told you, sir, you know it, that I was like you, which I have understood about you. I was not the man who will speak in public about emotions, but today I'm doing it. You know, I am one like you, like who never say how much I loved you. I'm sure you are listening to us. Sir, I stand today, it's because of you, who has held me strong and straight. I promise you today, whether you are listening from wherever you are listening, what you germinated 30 years ago, we'll try to plant. If not many, at least we cannot plant like what you did, but some saplings that may continue your academic lineage. Lastly, ma'am, you are there. We have often seen and said about sir, but ma'am, I would like to tell you also one thing, that you stood when no one was there to lean upon us. Like we were just like you were, you had the ability and affection to include us as part of your family. I was seeing the video which you were showing. I can recall every corner of the drawing room which is actually there in the picture. I still remember, ma'am, when we used to stay in a very modest flat. Both of you will never ever make us feel low about the quality and the place. Your affection always overshadowed our weaknesses. Thank you, ma'am. I promise you that 23rd and 25th December, our interaction will not be the end. I and Mira, I promise you, will come more often to Chittaranjan Park than ever. Thank you, ma'am, for being with us. Sir, thank you for being part of our life and my family. Thank you for everything you have done for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Avanish. I think of late Avanish has shared another secret or lesser known story about his life, that his son Moksh was named by none other than Srivastava sir and Kumkum Didi. And he is also going to have a small 1-minute performance in honor of sir by the time we wind up the meeting before the silent prayer. And that is one of the things which we are sharing with the audience, that how Srivastava sir was not only inspiring the next generation, but was also touching the generation after the next during his lifetime. And when he has gone away from us in his mortal body, he would keep touching the life and philosophy of many generations to come. And that is where the real spirit of being Vinay Kumar Srivastava lies. There was one story which Avitoli showed in the slide, that he never left for better jobs, the so-called better jobs, Delhi School of Economics, Jamia Millia Islamia, and many other offers. We never left. On one of the occasions, I asked her, why you are not willing to go? Not that we wanted to leave you. Very interesting story, he said. He talked about his Babuji, who is still there. And he said, I asked Babuji about this. And Babuji told a native knowledge, Bete patthar apni jagah pe bhari hota hai. And this metaphor, which he has said, It's not that he wanted to feel important, but he wanted to contribute substantially to the discipline of anthropology. And through his journey, creating new passages to sociology, Chinese studies, and other disciplines.
One of the things I often used to discuss with Sir was what is greater, Sir? Is the discipline greater than an individual, or some individuals are greater than their disciplines? Sir would, I always used to say that, Sir, you are greater than the discipline, at least in terms of how you attract students, how you convert them from being a physical anthropologist when they join the department and then make them social anthropologists. He would say, no, it's not like this. It is always the discipline which is greater. But I think, sir, let me now say, there are teachers who redefine their disciplines through their teaching and research and give them a new direction. You were one of those who, through his teaching and learning, gave a new meaning to social anthropology. I still remember his classes, which we all know were quite lengthy, but completely mesmerizing. It left me spellbound and in awe of him. And it was a common saying among students who disparage social anthropology that it's a soft subject, that when he teaches, it appears meaningful. Such was his appeal, as you know. Sir would often talk about that why I am like this, it is because of Madam. Madam made such an important contribution. So I express my gratitude and thanks to Madam to make what Sir was and how Sir contributed to social anthropology. Thank you so much.
Vinay and I got to know each other as graduate students in Cambridge in the 1980s. We were both students of Professor Caroline Humphreys, and we spent a lot of time together there, then became very close friends. He was, of course, a little bit older than me. He was more experienced. He'd already become a teacher in Delhi before he came to Cambridge. So I learnt a huge amount from him about India and about scholarship and about life as an anthropologist. We did some field work together, which was a wonderful experience. And the things which people have said already about his extraordinary ability to connect with people almost instantaneously, I saw that so very vividly as we did field work together in Rajasthan among the Raika people there. I'm sad. We did lots of field work together and enjoyed it very much. And we wrote some things, although we never got around to publishing them. I now regret that more than I'd had before. What else can I say? We have stayed in touch, but not very frequently. I hadn't seen him for some years, but I'd watched his extraordinary career and the influence he's clearly had on anthropology in India with huge admiration. The only thing I'd perhaps add to the tributes of his students and colleagues is that in addition to being a very learned and wise and extremely kind man, Vinay was also extraordinarily funny. He could, and some of the photographs you saw in the film we saw earlier just gave a hint of that. He could turn a difficult and depressing situation round with a joke. He could always see the funny side of things. He could always make me laugh, certainly, and I think many other people found the same thing. So I'm going to miss him enormously, even though we hadn't seen much of each other for a number of years. It's when you lose people in this way, you appreciate that they're part of your life, even if you don't see them very often. And I'd like to send my condolences to Kumkum and all his family. I have spent many very happy times around their dinner table and in their home. And I'll miss all that very much. Thanks.
I don't know what to say. I just found out about this a couple of hours ago, so I'm kind of in shock.
Okay.
Vinay, I don't know if people know, Vinay lived with me for a couple of years, I think, in Cambridge. And well, I have extraordinary memories of him. If I could say, I was thinking about this in the last hour. The first time that I really saw that he had a quite extraordinary intellect was when I and another member of the anthropology department in Cambridge then were organizing an introductory course to the anthropology of South Asia, and which of course is an absurd subject to do in 10 weeks or 12 weeks or whatever it is. But one of the subjects that we wanted to say something about was the anthropology of Islam in South Asia, and neither I nor my colleague knew anything about this whatsoever. So I was talking about this to Vinay, and he said he could do it. So we were a bit nervous about this. I mean, he was just a PhD student at that time, and so we were a little nervous, but we thought, well, why not? So as it happened, that particular day was a beautiful, beautiful early summer's day, and we took the class down to the riverside on the Cam, and we were all sitting there, and and Vinay started to speak, and it was just something magical, quite extraordinary. The confidence, the depth of knowledge, the extent of the knowledge, and the way he just captivated all of us. I mean, the two members of staff and the students, we were just absolutely blown away. So this is the first. This was when I realized this is a very special thinker. So then he came to live in my house, and by a very strange route, I was offered, I was given a kind of odd offer. I was presented with hundreds of very beautiful photographs of tribal India and asked if I could write a book on it. And I said, well, I can't, because I don't know anything about tribal India. But I turned to Vinay again, and I said to him, what do you think about this project? What had happened was these photographs had been taken by two really amazing Italian photographers who'd been all over India and taken beautiful, beautiful photographs. So in this, Vinay said, yeah, I could write that, or I could produce the information for that. So we then went off on this crazy trip to Paris, because the publisher was in Paris, and I had a friend in Paris, and she was very, very kind and took us on a nighttime tour of Paris, which for Vinay was just amazing. He'd never been there, so we had a great time in Paris. The next morning we went to the publisher's office, and we didn't really want the publishers to kind of hear what we were saying, because we hadn't quite made up our mind if we were going to take on the job or not. So between my bad Nepali, because of course I worked in Kathmandu, and his Hindi, we kind of had this very odd conversation, but we decided that we would take on the job. And this wasn't really an academic proposal at all. It was a commercial proposal. They were going to pay us some money, which, you know, when you're very young is always nice. And so we decided we would do it. So then we went back to Cambridge with these hundreds and hundreds of photographs. And the first thing we did was we organized them, and we decided how we were going to do the book on particular kinds of themes. And bear in mind, it's not a particularly academic book. It's what people would often call a coffee table book. That is to say, something that you leave out on your table for your guests to just look through the photographs. So, but we had a very, very short time to write this book. I mean, very short time to write this book. So we hit on a strategy, which I could never have done. That is to say, I had a small office in the department. Vinay would arrive there at 6 p.m. and work until 6 a.m. That is right through the night. I would then come in at 9 a.m. and he would have taken one batch of photographs, and he would have just produced masses of information and so on. And I would then spend the next 9 hours or so. I wasn't quite as committed as him. I would spend about 9 hours turning what he had produced into a kind of text. And then he would come back in at 6 o'clock and spend another 12 hours. And this went on. And we wrote the book, I think, in about 3 weeks. It was, I mean, look, if you'd asked me to do the book alone, I'd still be doing it 30 years later. I simply could not have done it. So then I have to say something terrible happened, because in the course, just before we started this, Kumar arrived. Hello, Kumar. And Vinay decided to go off on a little tour of England with Kumar. Unfortunately, he didn't tell me that he was going to do this. And so he disappeared for a while. We were on a very, very tight schedule to write this book. So when he came back, I was furious with him. I mean, absolutely furious. And we had this big blow up. And I don't think he ever forgave me for this, but we still wrote the book. And it was him really who wrote the book. It was I couldn't have done it. I just couldn't have done it. And I remember him, he lived in, as I say, in my house for a long time. I remember him with just amazing affection. And that's all I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Declan. After listening to James and Declan, we have another friend of ours, student of Professor Srivastava, now at London, Bijay Kumar.
Thanks, Somendra. Didi, namaste. I'm really, my thoughts are with you, Sonu and Gopi, and I wish I would have been with all of you sitting there during this time as well. Vinay Srivastava was not only my teacher. He never taught me in the classroom, but he influenced me so much. If I learned anthropology, he is one of the person that I learned anthropology the most. He is so much in command. He was so much in command of the subject. His understanding of anthropology, and he was living anthropology in each and every minute of his life. So he would explain everything, relate anthropology to anything and everything that he would do. And in the classroom, I still remember that in the one class, we were almost like say 50 odd students. We were sitting there for 3.5 hours. None of us went out of that room. It was in Hansraj College in an auditorium. And he would actually mesmerize everybody. We were completely awed by the way he was actually conducting the class. And everything was almost downloaded in total. You understand everything that he was saying right there. But after the class was over, then you can go to the blackboard. Everything will be written in an absolutely nice format. And if I used to stand there for 10-15 minutes, and you will actually see everything that he said in 3.5 hours will be in the blackboard as well. His communication skills, his understanding of the subject, and his articulation was absolutely remarkable. I haven't seen anybody with that much of clarity and command over the subject and ability to communicate. So that is what I would always remember Sir with. And I've not been in, I didn't see him for some years now, but the last I talked to him was in March, February or March, after a webinar. So he said, we had a plan to meet this time. So we thought that we'll meet this time, and this is unfortunately is not going to happen ever. He influenced my thinking so much. So he does live, and he always lived with me whenever I did the work. I shifted not necessarily into academics, but I got into a career in pursuing development work at national and international level. But his thinking always stayed with me. His analysis, he's one person would start the analysis where others would actually finish it. So his way of looking at things was so unique. You will suddenly realize that he is talking of something which is completely out of box, and you never thought of it. So let's say articulating, understanding it from that perspective was so different. And I still remember 85, 86 and 87, perhaps 2 to 3 years, every evening, almost every evening a week. So we would be spending time in with Didi and Sir in your Daryaganj's house. I would never forget that. And that is an integral part of my memory. And that actually shaped my thinking. Because he will have a view of on anything and everything that you see around. And he will articulate that so well. And he will actually make you feel that this is an analytical framework that you should always take. And I would always miss the opportunity to see him in person. But it is now the time to celebrate his contribution, to celebrate his life, what he did, the amount of influence that he had. Like I can see that 80, 70, now 70 people are still sitting here and actually talking about that. If I hear them, everybody is saying from the heart the amount of influence that he had on their life. And on me, he had the huge influence on my life, livelihood, and Didi, you had an influence on my marriage as well. So let's say it was a real pleasure knowing all of you, and it's really a pleasure remembering that at least I had the opportunity to interact in person with such an elegant personality, which that elegance was coming from, let's say, is very personable. I remember he is as a great friend, to whom you can walk up to and discuss anything and everything, any problem that you have. He will have a solution for that, and he will have a different thinking for that. We will always miss those wisdoms, Binay sir, but is now, as I said, it to celebrate the time and all the prayers for him to rest in peace. So Didi, my thoughts and condolences with all of you, and I do feel like I'm already sitting there with you. Thank you very much for giving the opportunity to express my feelings and also express my tribute to Sir, a person worth remembering and worth celebrating. Thanks.
Thank you, Professor Patnaik, for inviting me to say a few words. It really is a shock to know that Professor Srivastava, passed away just a few days ago. I came to know about it from my daughter, who is a colleague of Dr. Kumkum Srivastava in the Janki Devi College. And I must say that Professor Vinay Srivastava was a familiar face, for us in Delhi University as students. And though I did not have much interaction with him, but quite familiar with the kind of work that he did. And one of the works which I also mentioned in the chat box was the book on methodology and field work, which really is very important text for my students, particularly before they go for field work and prepare for the field trip, that they had to read this book in order to be able to acquaint themselves with the kind of intricacies that field work demands for students in sociology and social anthropology. And I also had invited him recently, about a couple of years ago, to Jamia, where I had organized a research methodology workshop for our students at the Center for Northeast Studies and Policy Research. And I was very touched because when I invited him, he was in Calcutta at that time, and I wasn't sure whether he would come, just for a small lecture in such a small department, as us in Jamia. But he readily agreed. And not only did he agree to come, and also delivered a very brilliant lecture, for almost 2 hours. And the students wanted more to hear from him. And I knew that what an excellent teacher he was, because students will not be reacting to a lecture in a way in which they did, were it not for the fact that he was very good at it. And then we had a small chat after the lecture, and then that was it. I did not have the chance to meet him again after that. Though I told him that we should try to remain in touch, because students, wanted to interact with you more. And he said, yes, we would do, but somehow or the other, it just didn't materialize. So when I heard the news that he was unwell, and my daughter was very perturbed about the whole thing, being a lockdown time, and she has small kids, could not go and see him, and so I think she hasn't been able to even go and meet Kumkum Didi or Kumkum Ji after she gave the news about his passing away. And so just to say that I'm deeply sorry about this whole thing, that they have to lose, a member of the family, just at the prime of his life, I would say, with so much more to contribute to the discipline, and also so much more to contribute to the family. And also seeing what kind of an affectionate person he must have been, as a father and a husband, to see his daughter breaking down, talking and remembering the good times that they had, with their father. I can well imagine the kind of pain and anguish that they must be going through. And I can only say that I wish that God will be with the family and give them succor and solace, and also remember the good times that they have had, with their father. And I would like to say also that they should see it as a privilege of having had, such a wonderful person, for their father. So with these few words, I would like to again express my condolence to the family, and also on behalf of my colleagues at the Center for Northeastern Policy Research at Jamia Millia University. So I give my condolences and best wishes to all of them. Thank you.
Well, we all loved Vinay. It was a very simple relationship. He loved us, we loved him back. And I think that went for all the students and teachers who worked with him. So he brought a lot of lightness into the space that he occupied. I saw him only 4 years ago, and I didn't expect to see him till next year. Actually, I put him on a panel for exam now for PhD student. I'm so disappointed that I won't see him. I expected only to see him on Skype. But the point is, in Delhi, none of us ever keep in touch, and we don't interact. And we do remember one another for the kindnesses and the goodwill. And Vinay will always be remembered for that. I was speaking to Vinita Menon, who's also here. Spoke for about an hour together. I didn't know anybody else who knew him really. And I think the sorrow that she felt was so huge because she had been in touch with him, I had not. So I had never actually interacted or connected with him these 20 years. But for that 1 year that we worked together, maybe it was 2 years, at Hindu College, Amrit, Dr. Kheda, Vinay. Vinay was a peaceful person who connected all of us. There would be a lot of opposition in terms of ideas with Dr. Kheda and myself, but Vinay always neutralized the anxiety, the passion, the terror that Kheda and I could bring to any forum, because Kheda had different teaching ideas and a pedagogy which I only understood after Vinay wrote that obituary. So I felt very sad when I read that obituary of Dr. Kheda, because Vinay understood him so well. So I think it was a slice of my life, a huge part of my life as a young woman, which Vinay made so easy by his sweetness, his gentleness, which all of you have also experienced. So thank you for inviting me to be here. Thank you very much.
I don't know how to express myself. When I joined the department in 1987, it was because of Sir that that passion for anthropology was ignited in me. I was never aware of the existence of this discipline, but Sir developed that passion which I'm carrying even today, and whatever I'm doing, I think that he's standing there as my role model. Last interaction I had with Sir was during the Viva we had for my research scholar, PhD research scholar in IP University. And the manner in which he addressed these students, it was, I have not seen anybody, reaching out students like that, giving them tips on how to write the thesis, how to get the work published. It was totally amazing. And later my PhD scholars took so much tips from him. And I had organized a conference in August this year on indigenous people. He was not able to participate in it as a speaker because he had some activities in Anthropological Survey of India, but he attended the sessions throughout and he was there. So I just cannot express the grief that I am going through, and I can understand what the family, Kumkum ma'am and the children must be going through. I think my only tribute to sir can be in terms of keep writing and keep doing our research and carry on the tradition that sir has passed on to us. Thank you so much.
One of sir's student, Kanato Chophy, if Kanato is listening.
Okay, so my network is terrible here in Nagaland, but I just thank you so much for giving me this time to say a few words about my teacher. Professor Srivastava was in fact a superstar here in Northeast India. He was well liked and he was very much respected by students. So I remember, wherever he goes to, even small universities like in Nagaland or Dibrugarh or Guwahati or even Silchar, he actually, there would be student full packed hall listening to his lectures. And something so fascinating about my sir that I've known him for this quite 9-10 years is that he knew the region very well. And it's quite fascinating. He always keeps reminding me about how diverse Northeast India is, and encourage us to actually understand the diversity which India is all about, that he keeps telling me in our personal conversation. Also, something about sir that I quite like is that he was in fact very much proud of his students from our side of the world. In fact, Dr. Avitoli is with me. Dr. Avitoli, how proud he was of you, me, and other students from Northeast India. And the last conversation that I had with him before he fell ill was that he told me about how important it is for natives to write about ourselves, And he said that it brings some kind of strength, or rather he said it brings a different vantage point to anthropology, when natives write about themselves. And in fact, he actually taught me a lot about how to write and how to, organize my thought, or how to actually, in fact, even write ethnography or do field work. I'm very sad, in fact, because he asked me to, he was trying to get in touch with one interpreter of his, I think in 1985. So he said that Dr. Vibha Joshi and Professor Nilika and others were there with him. So he said he wanted to actually get in touch with this gentleman named Safile Guire. So sir had a very eidetic memory, like he remembers every field work that he has done over the course of his career, as if it happened yesterday, And he was so excited to come and visit me in Nagaland, but sadly that this could not happen. But we just hope and pray that students here could carry on his legacy, and then definitely I think his legacy is well and alive here, and we hope and pray that students here in Northeast India would be able to take anthropology to greater heights. So lastly, I just want to express my condolences to his family, his colleagues, and his students as well. So thank you so much, sir, for giving me this time. Back to you, sir.
Thank you for giving me the chance to speak about Professor Vinay, because I used to call him only Vinay and he used to call me Shiva. He is such a person, I think it is unthinkable to assume that he is not with us physically, I would say, because in our thoughts, in our memory, in fact, as if he is talking to me, I always feel that, because this is one thing I always find in him is he's never negative in his thinking. In fact, he always looked at positive sides of people. In spite of personally when we discuss things, he said, that's not a good thing to highlight. I think he's one of the greatest qualities of him. And this is something I used to pick up my phone and ask him. Then he would say, I used to ask him, are you busy? Not at all. For you, I will never be busy. In fact, that's the kind of value that he gives to his people, because I lost a part of me, I always felt, because when he wanted me to talk, write. In fact, it was because of him I wrote on my teacher, Professor Srinivas. In fact, I wrote 2 pieces. One on writing the thesis. He said, you write autobiographical. In fact, I avoided that, but he added something. Similarly, when I wrote What Ails Indian Anthropology, I wrote it, and then he told me, you write very frank, and then what we could not do, you did it excellently. He said, I said, it's up to you. If it is good, you publish it, otherwise you put it in the dustbin. No, I'm publishing it. In fact, in a half an hour, he came back with his thing. I just made small changes, and I hope you agree with it. I said, you are free to do anything because you are master of editing. And I had my students, they were privileged to have him as their expert for PhD thesis. And I was also lucky enough to evaluate a couple of his students' theses for PhDs. And he is kind of enchanting personality. And I don't think, I still feel that whenever I close my eyes and think of him, I feel that I'm still, he is in front of me. And I don't think he disappeared from us. He disappeared physically, but not in our kind of thinking. And I don't know, because I am also grieved. With this, I pay my homage to him and my heartfelt condolences to his family members and to all colleagues and students. Thank you very much.